Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here at my next Airspeed Plays TCG video. And this is going to be the one for Yu-Gi-Oh! And this is going to be part 4. So yeah, I'm just going to do it the same way as I did the other ones. So that means that I'll start with a basic introduction on the game. So obviously the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game, as it's called. I think it's the second youngest of all these 4 main card games I'm doing, in that Magic I think came out first, followed by Pokemon, I think followed by this, or else Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon came out very similar times, but I think this was afterwards, and then Card-Fight Vanguard's the youngest of them. But this is Yu-Gi-Oh! Is actually the most popular trading card game, just in terms of number of products sold and stuff like that. I think it's also got one of the bigger kind of competitive scenes in terms of amount of tournaments per year and stuff like that, and a lot of that comes down to, I think it's got a bigger appeal to kids than Magic the Gathering, just because it has that anime to work off as well. And I think that's the key point to why this game is such a success, that anime kind of fitting in with the products that they release, and they do that really well. But I'll start off with getting into Yu-Gi-Oh! As a beginner player, and that starts off with buying your first product. What's the first thing you're going to buy? So as ever with all of these games, there are starter decks, and this is a type of starter deck. Yu-Gi-Oh! Has 2 different types. One is just a standard starter deck, which they actually only release once every 2 years or so, to coincide with one of the new animes, to introduce a new type of card, game mechanic or something like that. But what this is, which is much more often released, is a structure deck, which they release roughly every 3-4 months. And what it is that while the starter deck is really basic, it's just how you play the game. Very simple cards based around one little thing, summoning that new type of card or something. These starter decks are just are actually built kind of for more competitive players, in that it gives you the basis for a specific type of deck, and from there, you can add cards to that to make it better. In this case, this is the Saga of Blue Eyes White Dragon deck, so it's based all around the card Blue Eyes White Dragon, which is this card here. And obviously this is the most powerful normal monster, the most powerful monster that doesn't have an effect. So there's that. But as well as starter decks being available, there are also booster packs. Now they release booster packs roughly every 3-4 months as well. And I think in Yu-Gi-Oh! Booster packs are not great. I think with Pokemon, along with Pokemon, it's probably the worst type of booster pack in terms of what you get in it. But I'll talk more about that later in the collectability / metagame review. But as well as booster pack, there's obviously booster boxes. They also in the past few sets they've done special edition booster packs, where you get in a similar box to this, so you get 3 packs and a promo card from that set. But they've changed that now into a more Magic the Gathering Fat Pack style thing, where it's a kind of nice box, 9 packs and more promo cards. And I think that's a much better way to do it, because Fat Packs are a really cool product. But again, Magic the Gathering is organised a bit better in terms of the pack layout. But the big thing I think going for Yu-Gi-Oh! In terms of product is that they've got so much other product in addition to booster packs and starter decks. You remember my complaint about Card-Fight Vanguard was that there was only booster packs and starter decks. Yu-Gi-Oh! Also has tins, so you get these really nice tins. They release, I think, roughly 4 a year, sometimes 6. And in the tin, which you can store your cards in, you get 4 packs of, they give you different sets. So usually it's, I think, 3 of one booster pack, 1 of another, plus 5 promo cards. The monster on the front, plus 4 cards that are used competitively and are very popular and hard to get sometimes. So they actually really upped their game when they kind of started doing that in these tins, putting in 4 cards that fans really wanted and were hard to get. So these are actually really cool in terms of what they do. So that. They also from time to time release these kind of smaller tins. You can sort of see much smaller. And usually this is when a duelist pack comes out, which is a small set of cards based around one particular character, like in this case Yusei. and they give you just a few of the, like 2-3 of those packs plus some promo cards. And that's basically the kind of way they do most things in Yu-Gi-Oh! In addition to that, there's a lot of other cool product, which I think makes Yu-Gi-Oh! Probably one of the best in terms of amount of product available. Stuff like legendary collections, which I'm going to show you pictures of. Those basically are these different sets of cards, and that's what Yu-Gi-Oh! Does well. It's not just the booster sets of cards, there's also these other ones where they kind of get older cards and put them together into new sets, where it makes some of the older cards easier to get, because Yu-Gi-Oh! Especially competitive decks run a lot on staple cards, which are really general cards that just work well in most decks, and if they just kept it where they only came out in the first set they came out in, no one would have those cards. So they reprint a lot of stuff, which you get as well. And yeah, in addition to those, there's stuff like gold packs, which are these kind of 25 card packs where you get guaranteed shinies and stuff like that in them. And there's a lot of other stuff. There's a lot of product for this game, basically, and I think that's really cool. But yep, let me just show you what you actually get in a starter deck, as I've done for all of these. So this is the box. It's just pretty basic, standard cardboard box. Picture in the front, deck list on the back, some of the main cards in the deck, what the deck is really about, and you get a mat with it. So you get everything in, obviously, a kind of plastic thing like this. It just kind of folds open. You get your standard Yu-Gi-Oh! Rulebook. This is the latest 8.0 rulebook. Just everything about the game. Almost too much detail, but that's just for, if you're really getting into it competitively, make sure you know all the rules. You get this kind of how to play this deck guide, because the thing about Yu-Gi-Oh! Is that some decks are very specialized in what they're trying to do. In this case, every card in the deck is nearly about summoning Blue Eyes White Dragon. And then on the back is just some products and stuff like that. And in addition to that, there's also this mat over here, and it's just a paper mat, just folds up. It's not like this rubber mat that I have here. It's just a paper one you get with it, but it's got a nice kind of design with the two main cards of the deck in it. So there's that, and then of course you get your 41 cards, which I have them in sleeves, so you don't actually get these gold or pink sleeves. But you get your 40 cards here in your deck, and you've got your one extra deck card, and you actually get 4 shiny cards in this deck, 2 ultra rares, 2 super rares, and stuff like that. So it's a pretty nice deck. But there's the other one. There's the blue eyes you get in the deck. You're gonna get one of them. But there's that. So yeah. Next up, I'm going to show you the different types of cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! And sort of give you a basic explanation of how you summon them, so I don't have to demonstrate as much in the how to play section of the game, because that could go on really long if I spend way too long on the how to play section. But I'll see you then. Okay, so here are the different types of cards. Basically, there are 3 overall separate types of cards. They are monsters, as you can see here with this Luster Dragon. And there are traps, which are these ones in pink, and there are spells, which are these ones in green. Now, there are different types of each of these, as you can see here. There's 3 different types. They're just designated with the little symbols here beside trap card. Same with the spells. They're just designated as being different by the little symbols. With monsters, there's one slight difference in that. There's these ones with the kind of more yellowy borders, which are just normal monsters. Their text is just a little bit of story about them. While there are these ones in a kind of a darker kind of color, which actually have effects, and what their text says is an effect that affects the game. And then there are like ones where their effect and tuner monsters, Gemini, and then there's different other monsters. So let's just come back here. On each of your turns, you're allowed to summon one monster, normal summon one monster that is level 4 or under. These little stars up here designate what level it is. This is level 4. So you can actually summon this straight from your hand. Or if it's level 3, 2, or 1. There are no level 0s. But if it's a level 5 or 6, you have to sacrifice one monster first, and then you can summon it from your hand, which just means like destroying one monster on your field, summoning that. This Blue Eyes here is a level 8, but it also applies to level 7s as well. You have to tribute 2 monsters to summon this thing from your hand. So that's just the basic way of summoning. The same applies to effect monsters. You can summon any level 4 or lower from your hand, and just the tribute things work as well. But the main thing is that their effects can be activated. Your opponent cannot activate trap cards during the battle phase. That's just like a continuous effect. Some of them have like ones where you can choose when to activate it, and so on. Like for instance, this effect is when it's sent to the graveyard, add a Blue Eyes White Dragon from your deck to your hand. That just means like it only activates when it's destroyed, basically. That's when it activates. But this is also a tuner monster, as you can see it says right there. That means that it plays a role in the summoning of a different type of monster called a Synchro, which I'll get to eventually. Next up is a Gemini monster, which as you can see beside Dragon it says Gemini. And basically the way they work is that you treat it as not really having an effect. You summon it the normal way, so in this case you'd have to tribute 2 monsters. But then you can choose to summon this card again. Basically say, I'm using my normal summon to activate the effect of this thing. And then you get its effect, and that's a Gemini. They kind of work as kind of 2 separate things. You make them more powerful by kind of, I suppose, wasting your summon on it. But next up is the last type of monster that goes in your normal deck, and that is a Ritual monster. As you can see here, it's in blue, it says Ritual, and you have to use a special type of spell card to summon this, which I will get to, and I'll reference back to this. The next 3 types of monsters go in your extra deck. So they're not included as part of your 40 card deck, which you use in a Yu-Gi-Oh game. They're instead included in this thing called an extra deck, which is anywhere between 0 and 15 cards. And you can summon, using the cards in your normal deck, you can actually summon these cards to the field, and these are usually some of the more powerful cards. So this one in purple is a fusion monster, and that means that you have to, as it suggests, fuse 2 monsters together to summon it, using a special card called Polymerization, or other cards that have the same effect of fusing cards together. And you have to use the specific ones it mentions. In this case, Elemental Hero Monster plus an Earth Monster. A lot of them are much more specific than that, and they require like very specific monsters. Next up is the Synchro Monster, which and all of these also sometimes have effects, sometimes they don't. But the Synchro Monster is this one in white border. And basically, like the fusion one, it says it requires certain things. In this case, a tuner and a non-tuner monster. So let's come back to this guy. So he's a tuner monster, and that's just said there by the fact that it says tuner, which means he can tune things and aid you in synchro summoning. And all you have to do to synchro this guy, for instance, he is a level 9 synchro monster. You have to have the tuner monster and the monsters that you're going to use in addition to that add up to level 9. So with this, in this case, you'd have to use the White Stone of Legend, which is a level 1 tuner, which makes up all the tuners you can use, plus a Blue Eyes, which would be a level 8, and that makes 9, and it's also a normal monster, so you can just tune those 2 together to special summon your Synchro monster. These 3, when you summon them, will all be considered a special summon, so you can summon as many of these as you want during your turn. They don't count as your normal summon, so that's something I'll explain better in the actual kind of playtest game. But last one here is an Xyz monster. You can see there it says XYZ, but it's pronounced Xyz for some reason. And these are summoned in a slightly different way. As before, they have a requirement, in this case 2 level 3 monsters. And what you do is that instead of with the fusion and synchro, the monsters that you use going to the graveyard and being destroyed, the 2 monsters actually kind of go underneath the card and are just considered units, like Xyz materials, which help you activate its effect. So in this case it's 2 level 3s, which means that you'd actually have 2 materials, so you could activate his effect twice. And then after that, he's still a pretty good monster you're left over with. And basically the kind of reason that there's these 3 different colours is this one came out like very early on in the game. This came out with the 3rd series of the anime, and this one came out with the newest series of the anime. That's just the kind of chronology there. Briefly go through the different types of trap cards. With trap cards, the thing that makes them different is that they're not like monsters. Monsters go in the top zone of the board. Spell and traps go in the bottom zone. But the traps have to be placed face down first. So you can't play them directly from your hand onto the field. You have to have them face down, and then you have to wait until it's not your turn. You can't activate them the turn you played them down. And then you can actually activate them during your opponent's turn or during your next turn. So you just flip it over and activate it, depending on what the card effect says. You have to activate it at the right time. That's just a standard trap. It's just play it down, activate it when you want. This is a continuous trap card, as you can see from that symbol there. That just, the infinity symbol just means it lasts on the field until it's destroyed, while this one, when it's used, goes to the graveyard afterwards. And in this case, it's just it attaches itself to another monster, stopping them from doing anything. And when the monster is destroyed, this card is destroyed too. But that's a continuous one, just stays on the field. Next one is this one, and as you can see with the little arrow there, it's a counter trap, which just means that it's the fastest trap basically. If someone uses a trap on you, you can then, with this card's effect, activate this and actually stop their trap from doing anything because it's fast enough to like negate it from happening. That's just a little bit of confusion with the one confusing thing about Yu-Gi-Oh will be spell speeds, how quick cards can act against other cards and stuff like that. Usually it's not much of a problem, but I'll just mention it briefly in the actual playtest. Next are spell cards, which differentiate themselves from traps in that you can just straight from your hand activate this onto the field. They don't need to be face down, though you can play them face down. But the thing is, you can't activate them during your opponent's turn like traps. So that's just a standard spell. Play it down, effect activates. When it's used, it goes to the graveyard. This is an instant spell card as designated by that lightning bolt. And as it probably suggests, it's the one type of spell card that can actually be activated during your opponent's turn. And that's assuming it's played face down. And you may be wondering, like, why is this not a trap card then? And the main reason for that is just so, if you want to, you can play it during your turn and activate it. And usually it's a specific type of card that works this way, where it's got an effect kind of during both players' turns. But next up is this type of card, which is an equip spell, which I don't really know specifically why it's mentioned as just having a like X, but it equips onto a monster. Basically, you just decide which one you're attaching it to, and it stays on the field until the monster that it's attached to is destroyed or the card itself is destroyed. And they just have effects like giving you extra attack points, stopping them from being destroyed, stuff like that. Nothing really specific there. There's that infinity symbol again, as it suggests. It's just a continuous trap card, spell card. It stays on the field until it gets destroyed, basically, and you can use its effect multiple times. Second last one, is a field card spell, which just has this kind of similar one to an equip spell, but it's just a little bit different. And this actually goes in a special place on the board. It actually goes up here in the field card zone, as you can just about make out. And that's just right up in the corner, and it just affects the board from there on out. And not every deck is going to use these. They're very specific to certain types of cards, but they usually have pretty good effects. Final one is this type of card, which is a ritual spell, which is just signified by that fire. Now, this is where it comes into play with this ritual monster. Each ritual monster has their own specific ritual spell card. So in this case, Relinquished has the Black Illusion ritual. So there is a type of card that uses general ritual spells, I think, but I'm not very familiar with them. In this case, this is specific to this card. This ritual spell can only be used to summon Relinquished. And how it works is that, you activate it, and then to summon your ritual monster, what you have to do is basically from your field or hand, tribute monsters whose total level equal to or above the level of the monster you want to summon. So in this case, it's just level 1. So you can basically just sacrifice any monster from your hand or the field, even if it's not level 1. Unlike XEs and Synchros, it doesn't have to be exact. You can be over if you want. and you can summon that. The key difference between these three and the ritual is that the ritual monster and spell go in your deck. So you can only summon these when you have them both in your hand. That makes them a bit slow to summon, but that's the basics behind more or less the specifics behind how the game works and the different types of cards. Up next, I'm just going to demonstrate a brief sample of how you play the game, how normal summons work, special summons work, activating trap cards and stuff like that. Okay, so now I'm going to demonstrate to you how you set up and then play a game. So as you can see, I've got two sides of the field here. This is going to be the not structure deck, which is going to be the Morphtronic one, which as you can see is probably my better constructed deck, and it's got a full extra deck. But I'll first briefly go through the different fields of the game. I touched on them in the last segment, but just so you know, top left is your field card zone, field spell card zone. There's only one of them on the field. Below that is the extra deck zone. Then on the top right side of the field there is the graveyard, bottom right, deck zone. And then in between those are the 10 segments where the game will basically all take place. You've got 5 monster zones along the top, and then 5 spell and trap card zones along the bottom. And that's where the game takes place. Monsters go here, spell and traps go here. You'll use monsters from your extra deck from time to time. If your deck uses a field card, it'll go there. And of course, you'll be drawing from your deck. Destroyed, used cards will go in the graveyard. Basic setup. So their field is already set up, but what you do basically is extra deck, you put your extra deck down here, which is your synchro monsters, Xyz monsters, and fusion monsters, face down here, anywhere between 0 and 15 cards. So you don't even have to have an extra deck. But most decks nowadays do use them because there are a lot of really powerful monsters you can easily summon, so why not? Then you shuffle your deck, let your opponent shuffle your deck, and then you put your deck down on the deck zone. So there you go, we're both set up, and then what you do is just draw 5 cards. Both players draw 5 cards, and then you basically do flip a coin, play rock, paper, scissors, and decide who's going first. For this practice duel, we'll just go first ourselves. So you draw your card, which basically means you open up with 6 cards at all times. So that's the main thing to say. You open up with 6 cards, and here's our hand. So you draw 6 cards randomly, and this is what we get. We got a nice selection here: 2 spells, 1 trap, and 3 monsters. So I've organized this. I didn't actually shuffle the deck. I actually organized the deck to explain this properly, but just so I could show you specific aspects of a game. But yeah, let's get into this. So your turn consists of a draw phase, which we just did. We just drew a card. That's the start of our turn. From there, once we've drawn a card into our hand, you go into a phase called a standby phase, which isn't really used that often, but it's used in certain card effects. Most of the time, if you don't have any cards that do it, you'll completely skip through that phase. It just is a chance that your opponent has to activate spell and trap cards if they want to, basically. But from there you move into your main phase 1, which, as the name suggests, is the main, where most of the action will take place, in addition to the phase after that, which is the combat phase or battle phase. And then after that you go into a main phase 2, which is, after all the stuff happens where cards are getting destroyed in the battle phase, you're allowed to do something else. And then end phase is the last thing. But what you do basically in a turn is you summon your 1 monster and special summon as many monsters as you can. Play spell and trap cards down, attack if you can, and end your turn. So that's the basic rundown of what you do in a turn. But in this case, it's the first turn of the game, and you're not allowed to attack in the first turn because your opponent hasn't done anything yet, and they can't do anything from their hand. So what you do first is decide, okay, what are we going to do? For the most part, we have 1 trap card. It's early game, so we don't want to get beaten first turn. So we'll play this 1 trap card face down, and there's a lot to be said about just placing a trap card down in this game, and that there's a psychology to it. You could have just placed this card down, which is a normal spell. You can't activate this during your opponent's turn. But if this was all we had in our hand and we played it face down, our opponent could think that we have the best trap card in the game and may not attack. And that's the psychology of this game, which I really like. But in this case, we've put our trap card down because we want to actually do something if they go crazy. But then you go about summoning your monsters. We're not going to play any of these cards just yet. We'll keep our spells for later. You don't want to use your whole hand immediately and then be just waiting to draw one card to get anything in your hand. So in this case, we decide what we're going to normal summon first, because usually you can't special summon immediately on your turn. So we can't summon our Blue Eyes yet, because that requires 2 tributes. We can summon Kaibaman if we want, and we can summon the White Stone of Legend. Now this effect obviously can get Blue Eyes into our hand, but since we have our Blue Eyes, there's no need. So we'll summon Kaibaman. So here's a normal summon. As I said, it's any level 4 or lower monster from your hand, unless its effect states otherwise. So to summon it, you can summon it either in face up attack mode or face down defense mode, and that's just what those numbers mean. Attack is obviously the 200, defense is the 700. This is attack mode, this is defense mode, and this is face down defense mode. There's no such thing as face down attack mode. So you can either summon it like that, where your opponent doesn't know what it is, and if they attack it, it's flipped up and then the defense versus attack is calculated, or we can summon it in face-up attack mode. In our case, we're going to use it in face-up attack mode because we're going to activate its effect, which is how I'm going to demonstrate a special summon to you. So there's our normal summon. So that just means that we've done that. We can't just put this on the field now as well, because we've done our 1 normal summon per turn. But a special summon, you're allowed to do as many as you want because it's a card effect. And now, as you can see, it says there, you can tribute this card, special summon 1 Blue Eyes White Dragon from your hand. So tribute, it just means destroy. So activate effect, destroy, put him in the graveyard, and then special summon Blue Eyes from the hand. So the key to that is just that instead of destroying 2 cards to normal summon this, and you can't normal summon again, you've just used 1 card and its effect to get your Blue Eyes onto the field straight away instead of waiting a turn and destroying 2 cards. There's a lot of quickness to that. So that's the basics of summoning and what you can do during your turn. We'll just have our opponent. I'm not going to properly play for the opponent. I'm just going to kind of demonstrate some stuff using some cards. So say they summon that monster and don't do anything else. They just summon that. That has 1200 attack, and its effect lets it attack twice if it wants. So it can't do anything really because it obviously doesn't want to do anything. So it just ends its turn. Yeah, so we comes to our turn again and we do the same thing. We go draw a card into our hand, which now obviously we have two monsters and 2 spells. So what we can do here is as follows. We can, the aim of probably our hand right now would be to get this thing on the field, because this is our second most powerful monster, but at the same time we could do something with this. So I'd say one good thing we could probably do is show you a synchro summon with this guy, because it's the tuner. So we normal summon this, and it's a tuner, and then what you do is you just, okay, our 1 card, the card that we want to summon is this Azure Eyes, Silver Dragon. It's a 9-star tuner. We've got a 1-star tuner monster, that's one of the requirements, and then 1 or more non-tuner normal monsters. Blue Eyes is a normal monster, it's 1 monster, so 8 plus 1 is 9, we have a tuner, non-tuner, we can do this. So you just say special summon Azure Eyes Silver Dragon by tuning together these 2. They go to the graveyard, and then we just special summon from the extra deck Azure Eyes, and now he's on the field. And now you may be thinking that, whoa, we've just made a mistake here. This only has 2,500 when Blue Eyes had 3,000 attack. We've lost ground here. But the thing is, this has an effect where Dragon-type monsters can't be destroyed during the turn this is summoned until next turn. But it's also got a secondary effect. During your standby phase, next turn, you can target 1 normal monster in your graveyard and special summon it. So next turn we'll actually just get Blue Eyes back for free, which is good, assuming Azure Eyes isn't destroyed during their next turn. So that's actually a really cool effect that it has, in that you think you've just lost on this deal getting a weaker monster, but he allows you to get back monsters every turn. It's just some of the strategy of this deck, getting high-powered monsters onto the field quickly. But yeah, so that's what we're going to do during our turn. And let's, for instance, activate a spell here. Sorry, it's just really awkward working the camera and trying to play the game at the same time. So we'll actually use two spells here in a kind of combo move here. So we'll use Monster Reborn. So you just play it after your hand into a field spell trap card zone. And it says target one monster in your player's graveyard, special summon it. In our case, we're just going to do whatever we want and say summon White Stone of Legend back. We could get our Blue Eyes back straight away, but we're going to get it for free next turn, so let's just leave it. So its effect is activated. I've got my card back. This goes to the graveyard now that the spell has been used. Now, I'm also going to activate this card's effect. It has two effects here. I'm going to use the second one because changing the battle position, the first effect, isn't going to do much because it's already in attack mode. I can beat it with the monsters I have here. So I'm going to use this secondary effect, which is tribute one monster, target a face of monster your opponent controls, and take control of it until the end phase. So we do that by, okay, we've revived this, we'll now tribute it, we now target this guy, get him on our side of the field, and now we own him for this turn. This card has been used now, goes to the graveyard, and now we go into our battle phase, now that we've done all our stuff with our main phase. Now, battle phase, you can do multiple things. You can, first, you can attack, basically, and you do it one at a time. So, you go, okay, this is attacking first, and then you just decide, okay, they've got no monsters on their field, so what you can do is actually attack them directly. This is how you win the game. Each player has 8,000 attack life points, and just by attacking them and like attacking monsters, they lose points like equal to or just a little bit less than their attack points. So in this case, we're attacking directly. They directly lose 2,500 life points. So they go down to 5,500 straight away. Then we can also attack with this guy as well because we've got him for this turn because of our card effect. But his effect says you can attack twice during the battle phase. So he loses 1,200, then 1,200 again. The two battles are conducted separately in this card's case. So he loses 1,200, then another 1,200, so 2,400. He goes down to 3,100. And then we've done all our damage, we've done a lot of life point damage to him. We end our turn, my spell card that I activated ends, and he regains control of his monster again. And then it's his turn. So let's just say, for instance, he summons another monster. Let me just demonstrate something. So he summons this card to the field. And this doesn't really help him too much right here because it's just not powerful enough. So he does that. And he switches this to defense mode just because he doesn't want to take any more damage. So we go to our turn again. And we draw our card. That's our draw phase. We go into our standby phase. And now this card's effect mentions the standby phase, so it activates. I target a normal monster in the graveyard. The only one left is Blue Eyes White Dragon. He's special summoned to the field. And now we have our Blue Eyes back. And just for sacrificing that tuner monster, we have these two guys back. And we've drawn a card here, Burst Stream of Destruction. Now this is the strategy of this deck. If you control a Blue Eyes White Dragon, destroy all monsters your opponent controls, Blue Eyes White Dragons cannot attack the turn you activate this card. This is perfect because we just are going to activate this. Burst Stream of Destruction destroys all monsters on the field that my opponent controls. So their two monsters are now gone, allowing me to attack them directly if I wanted to. But this card says that Blue Eyes can't attack this turn. So he only has 3,100 life points left. If I can only attack with this guy, he'll still have some life points left. But it's still my main phase. So what I could do is I could actually sacrifice Blue Eyes White Dragon here to summon my level 6 guy here, Kaiser Glider, to the field. Then go into my battle phase. And I can win the duel just by attacking with this and this. And that's a really quick way just to combo a lot of your cards together to win the duel quickly. And that's the strategy of this game. That's the openness of the strategy in this game. But let's just say for our case, I just want to demonstrate some more stuff. We don't activate Burst Stream of Destruction. We keep these two cards in our hands. This is the game again, and their field is back as it was with those two cards. So let's go into our battle phase in this case, and I'll show you normally how attacking would work, not directly attacking your opponent. You can only attack your opponent's life points directly when they have no monsters on the field. There are card effects that allow you to do it, even when they have monsters on the field. This deck, for instance, has a monster that can do that. But we enter a battle phase here. So let's just go, okay, Blue Eyes has the most attack, so we'll want to take the most life points this turn. So we'll want to have our monster with the most attack battling their one that's in attack mode. So we'll just say Azure Eyes attacks the defense position monster. And how you do this battle is that it's 2500 attack in attack mode, facing off against 400 defense in defense mode. In this case, the effect of this card comes into play, in that this card has an effect no, it doesn't actually work, sorry. This wasn't in defense mode, so that's not valid. Anyway, he has an effect while in defense mode. Once return, when a face-off Morphtronic monster you control is selected as an attack target, you can negate the attack. That works for himself as well. So I attack him, he negates the attack, and then I could attack again with Blue Eyes and take him out. But instead what I'm going to do is not attack him and just go for this guy over here with Blue Eyes White Dragon. So what you do here is you just go 3000 attack facing off against this guy in attack mode. He has 1000 plus his effect, which gives him 800 attack, 1800, and you just subtract to find out how much life points your opponent will lose. So they'll lose 1200, because basically the 1800 of this guy's attack goes into destroying him, the rest bleeds through into their life points and they lose that much. They don't lose life points if there's more attack than defense, because defense mode stops that. So that's basically how the game works. When your life points go down to 0, you lose the duel, and obviously your opponent then wins. There are other ways to win the game, like if you run out of cards to draw, you then lose. And there's some other card effects, like there's a series of 5 cards called Exodia. There's like a head, 2 arms, 2 legs. If you draw all 5 into your hand, you instantly win the duel. And stuff like that. There's other card effects as well, it's really cool that there are card effects that like literally say on them, you win the duel if something happens. So there's a nice variety to Yu-Gi-Oh. I'll briefly mention the summoning of an Xyz monster, which I'll demonstrate using this deck over here. So say they have that card on the field, which is level 4. They then summon another level 4. Let me just find the level 4 Xyz. There it is. So they then decide, okay, I want to Xyz summon a rank 4. The difference being that Xyz monsters have their stars on the left, normal monsters have it on the right. So they're not considered level 4, but rank 4. So what you do is this card requires 2 level 4 monsters, and that means that what you have to do is just stack these two up like kind of sideways like that, basically. And then you summon the card like this over the top of it. And they're basically called like overlay units, or as the card effect calls them, Xyz materials. And now they're not considered monsters anymore, like their attack and defense points don't matter, they're just materials right now, they're just cards. And so when you activate Utopia's effect here, what you do is, when a monster attacks, you detach one of these, like just take the material, put it in the graveyard, and its effect activates stop blocking an attack. But for the most part, yep, that's how you play the game. You activate traps and stuff like that. So, for instance, let's just say, for instance, they're attacking our Azure Eyes. So they've got 2,500, we've got 2,500. Usually this would result in both being destroyed. But they're just trying to get rid of my Azure Eyes so I can't summon stuff in the graveyard. They go to attack me, and I decide, oh, I'm activating my trap card now. Because they've decided they're attacking, it's going through, so I stop them and say, I'm using my trap card. I'm going to use the effect to change the target to defense mode. And that happens before the battle actually takes place, so they go to defense mode, and then the attack takes place, but it can't because they're in defense mode, and that's kind of how the activating card effects kind of works and stacks on top of each other. Like the latest thing to happen in the game is the thing that happens first, is the kind of way to say it. But yep, that's the basic game. So that's the way the game works. You activate your spells from your hand, you play your traps face down and activate them during your opponent's turn or during your turn. You normal summon monsters, tribute summon monsters, special summon monsters. You attack, activate effects in response to that, go back and forth until most games end with life points going to 0. Some decks rely on you running out of cards or stuff like that, but for the most part you'll attack for the win, and that's how the game works. It's a really good game in terms of strategy, I think, because there's such a wide variety of card effects. This deck here is all about summoning blue eyes to the field and getting this guy on board to get more blue eyes, because the main way to improve this deck, you only get 1 blue eyes and 1 azure eyes, would be to put 3 extra blue eyes, put 3 blue eyes in the deck. So you can only have 3 of any card in the deck. So 2 extra blue eyes, 2 extra azure eyes, and if you have 2 azure eyes on the field, you're getting 2 normal monsters from your graveyard back every turn, and you've got super powerful cards. And loads of cards, like this card references blue eyes. A lot of the cards are about summoning blue eyes from the graveyard and stuff like that. That's the strategy of this deck. All about getting him back no matter where he is. This deck with the Morphtronics over here, the strategy of this deck is about summoning a lot of these. They're not very powerful monsters by themselves in terms of their attack and defense. It's about summoning them in bulk to the field, because they each have an effect in attack mode and a different effect in defense mode. So just by switching your monsters from attack to defense mode on this in this game, you can really change the way the deck plays, in that it's actually a really good, like, basically at doing a lot of damage straight away if they're all in attack mode, because there's a monster that allows you to attack your opponent's life points directly. One of them that I showed you there added attack points to Morphtronic monsters, and that works for all of them. So if you just got a few of them on the field, you're doing a lot of direct life point damage if your opponent can't block it. Also, in defense mode, it's really good at creating lockdowns, in that there are like cards that say your opponent can only attack this monster if it's in defense mode. And if you put 2 of them on the field, your opponent can't attack because they're required with 1 attack to attack both of them, and that just can't happen in the game. And this deck can go really offensive, really defensive, and stuff like that. It's really cool. One final thing on this deck is just they do have a kind of a star card, like the star card of these 2 decks are Blue Eyes and Azure Eyes. The Morphtronic deck has Power Tool Dragon, which is this card that is easy to summon using the Morphtronic tuners. You get it to the field, and then he has an effect that gets equip cards to himself, and he's really hard to destroy when he has equip cards on him. And those equip cards can also be used on the Morphtronics, like this guy gets extra attack points for having equip cards on him. So really cool deck with a lot of synergies in this one. Lots of different strategies. While this deck mainly focuses on a couple of just summoning these 2 cards basically, and in addition to some other powerful dragons. So it's a really interesting matchup, like just absolute raw power against a lot of synergy and stuff like that. And that's what this game has over, I think, a lot of other ones, in that there's just a super wide variety in the types of games you can have. In Cardfight Vanguard, it's very difficult to have a different game every single time, in that you usually would attack every single turn. And there's no plus to not attacking really in that game. Same with Pokemon. In this game, there is actually a level of defensive play to it, in that if your deck is built a certain way, you can play super defensively and get an advantage later on. Like this Morphtronic deck can do a lot of damage by building up defensively. They can't do anything to you. You stack your field, you switch everything to attack mode, and suddenly you've won the game. And that's what I love about this game. There's such a flow to the strategy and the way the game works. The downside to the game is that it's very much run by super powerful cards. Like, way more powerful than anything I've mentioned here. There's some really just crazy powerful cards that people kind of, with certain strategies, just basically break the game and win it every single time. But I'll go briefly into some collection stuff now about the different rarities available in this game, in addition to some metagame stuff about Yu-Gi-Oh! Okay, so I'm going to talk about the different rarities now in the game. So, in each pack of Yu-Gi-Oh cards, you get 9 cards. You get guaranteed, for the most part, 8 commons and then one rare, one normal rare. If you get something better than that, the like super rare or plus will take the place of one of the commons. So let's show you off what those are. So a common is like this Blue Eyes White Dragon. It's just a normal card. There's nothing shiny about the card itself. It's just plain. So all commons look like that. There are kind of uncommons in the game because some of the packs have short print cards, which means they're just commons that you don't get as many of if you get a bunch of packs. There's nothing overly special about them. Um, then you get the normal rare, which you're guaranteed one of these in every single standard pack of Yu-Gi-Oh cards. And the only thing shiny about this is the lettering on the name, which as you can see here is all silvery. And that's just to signify that it's a normal rare. Next up is the first of the kind of cards, the like really rare cards that are not guaranteed any of. And this is a super rare. And it's just rare because of the shininess on the back of the picture. There's not shiny in the name, just in the back of the picture, and that's a super rare. And you usually get one of these in about every like 4 or 5 packs of cards. That's the ratio I think most people would say. And as I said, like in a pack you'd get like say 7 of these, your normal rare, and then the super rare would take the place of one of the commons, not the normal rare. So that's the way they do it. Rarer than that is an ultra rare, like this Dark Magician. The thing here is that it's shiny behind the card, as you can sort of see there. Yeah. And it's got gold writing in the letters to signify that it's an ultra rare. And I think it's roughly every 10, 12 packs, something like that, maybe closer to like 8. Every 8 packs or something like that, you get that. And obviously you will never get a super rare and ultra rare in the same pack, really. It's, you get your normal rare plus one of this, or the other ones. So that's an ultra rare. Rarer than that is an ultimate rare, which is just a different type of ultra rare. It's just all ultra rare cards are available in ultimate rare, but I think it's basically you get one in every box of cards. I think is the ratio on these things, and it'll be one of the ultra rares. And basically, it's the same as an ultra rare with the gold writing, shininess behind the card, but the border of the card, this kind of black border here, also is kind of shiny and has the shining effect on the card also has a kind of raised pattern to it as well. So it just looks better than an ultimate rare, than an ultra rare. And again, as I said, one in every box. Each box has about 36 packs in it, I think. Next up is the secret rare. Again, same. I think it's considered rarer than an ultimate rare. Usually one per box, I think. And as you can see here, super shiny. It's got the kind of rainbow kind of pattern on the writing of the card, and then really this diagonal super shiny pattern in the background of the card, and even going over some of the art itself. It's just really nice looking. Then the rarest card in a standard pack of Yu-Gi-Oh cards is a ghost rare. Now, as far as I can make out, these are more or less one in every like couple of boxes, I think. Probably one in every 2-3 boxes, so you don't get these very often. And from certain angles, it looks like there's nothing on the card. It looks like it's just shiny. That's all it is. But if you get the right angle, you can actually see the picture, and it's really cool. And it's called a ghost rare because it basically takes the art and makes the card look like it's a ghost. The Rainbow Dragon card itself, like in like a normal rarity, is a really kind of colorful card. But here it's like all white, as you can see just there. It's just blindingly light, and it's got this kind of secret rare kind of pattern to the naming of its, and it's just really cool, really rare. As I said, one in a few boxes. There are other rarities in the game, but you only get these rarities in like standard booster packs. There's special things like special editions and stuff like that where they put additional types of rarities into it. I'm just going to demonstrate that using a gold rare. These come in the gold packs, and you get, I think, guaranteed 4 in every one of the 25 card packs. And as you can see, it's basically an kind of, it's more similar probably to an Ultimate Rare, in that it's the same kind of thing, except instead of the kind of just bumpy pattern all over the place, it just replaces it with a kind of gold shimmer all around the card, and it's really, really nice looking. So there's that. And that's the rarities of the game. So I'll talk a bit about competitive now, and in terms of how you get cards and how good the booster packs are. In my experience, booster packs of Yu-Gi-Oh cards, the normal packs, are not good at all unless you're crazy into more or less every archetype in a pack. The packs are kind of organized in a way where I think there's about 120 cards in most sets, maybe a little less than that. And then there's like a certain amount of rares, a certain amount of super rares, a certain amount of these, and so on. But for the most part, there's 4 types of cards in every pack. Like there's Morphtronics, there's plants, there's like TCGs or something like that, plus like spellcasters or something like that. And nearly every card in the set is devoted to one of those 4 things, and then there's a few general cards. So if you don't like any of the archetypes introduced in a set, there's no real reason to buy it, because there's not many good general cards. And even then, if you're super into, like, say, all 4 archetypes, you can't really build a deck around them unless you get the best cards. And the Japanese sets, where this game always releases its sets first, they always have reasonable rarities. They still have like hard to get cards, but they never have like 5 or 6 of cards crucial to a deck hard to get. But when they bring the sets over to like America, Europe, they always up the rarity on stuff. Stuff that, say, a normal rare over in Japan is sometimes made like an ultimate rare over here, really hard to get. Some of them are go from commons to being secret rares from time to time, and stuff like that. So it's just a really kind of weird thing that Konami do with the game, and they just make it really hard to actually just build a deck that you want from packs, because to make a deck, this is a sort of game where it's very power focused, and if you don't have those big cards that are crucial to a deck, you're not going to win anything competitively. So you kind of need those cards. And then if you want to buy singles of them, they're very difficult to they're very expensive to just buy on their own. Like, it's not unheard of for cards to, like, in a newly released set, ultimate rares, ultra rares, secret rares, ghost rares, to go for like $50, $100, stuff like that. It's pretty insane if you want a certain type of deck. And, you know, as much as you'll like get most of the commons, it's just very difficult to build any sort of a good deck. Thankfully, you know, for me, I'm kind of lucky in that the one archetype that I got super into, Morphtronics, there's only one card in the whole kind of Morphtronic line of cards that's higher than a normal rare, and that's Power Tool Dragon. And I got this one with a tin, and then I actually bought the other one as a single, and that's the most I've ever paid for a single card, like €20 or something like that. And it was fine, because I only had to buy one card for that deck, really. The rest I just got from booster packs because they're all commons, and that was fine. But for anything else, basically, especially like now, I think Noble Knights or something like that are the one of the most sought after type of cards. All of their big cards are these really, really hard to get, like secret rares, ultra rares, super rares, and there's so many of each of those rarities in the set. It's just difficult to make the decks. So yeah, booster packs on their own, unless you really like most of the cards in the set, are not worth buying, I think. Tins and stuff like that are good because, as I said, you get the 4 promo cards, which are usually like really good competitive cards that could be used in most decks. And then a lot of the other products, like, it's good buying structure decks. Like, if you buy 3 of this Blue Eyes structure deck, you've actually got a reasonably good deck by itself. You could still improve it in other ways in addition to that, but buying 3 of this deck gives you multiples of like some of the key cards, like Maiden with Eyes of Blue, Blue Eyes White Dragon, and the tuner, the Synchro Monster Azure Eyes, stuff like that. And then the additional packs like Battle Packs, Legendary Collections, they get some good promo cards in them as well. But talking more about the game competitively, I've talked about how there's such a huge variety of effect But I think most Yu-Gi-Oh players really that are really competitive would say that the game is a bit kind of almost broken in terms of power right now, in terms of the card design and stuff like that. Some cards are just made way too powerful, and some decks are just made too good in a way. Um, and I'd agree with that to a certain extent, definitely. It is a power based game at this point in time. Everything revolving around, summoning super powerful synchros and Xyz monsters and just these really quick ways to get super powerful stuff onto the field straight away. And the metagame is in such a way where if you don't do that, you are gone. If you don't have one of the top few decks, you're gone. I think the most popular deck right now is like this set of dragons. I'll admit I haven't been keeping too much up with the standard booster pack, so I don't know too much about it. But it's this dragon deck based on some of the new dragon type of monsters like heretics or something like that, and they're just really really powerful stuff. So yeah, I'm just gonna kind of end it here. As ever, you'll see at the end my pros and cons for Yu-Gi-Oh. Next up is Magic the Gathering, followed by my video on other card games where I'll just kind of glance over some of the other ones that I know about. And then finally the kind of results video where I give my thoughts on what's the best game in terms of a collector's point of view, what's the game, the best game mechanics, and so on. But yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh! Really good strategy and stuff like that. And definitely the game I have the most experience with in terms of number of cards I have, making a competitive deck and stuff like that. So, yep, that's been this video. Thanks for watching. Bye.